Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and his foreign minister died on Sunday when their helicopter crashed as it was crossing mountainous terrain in dense fog. Iran state television first announced the servant of Iranian nation Ayatollah Ebrahim Raisi has achieved the highest level of martyrdom whilst serving the people. The incident occurred during President Raisi's return flight to the Iranian city Tabriz after he and the President of Azerbaijan inaugurated a dam on their shared border. The helicopter carrying the 63-year-old Iranian President, Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian and other officials lost contact approximately 30 minutes into the flight. This sparked immediate concerns and a massive search and rescue operation was launched. Initial reports from Iran state media described the situation as an accident. Iran's Deputy President for Executive Affairs, Mohsen Mansouri, said that two members of the president's entourage had contacted rescue teams, suggesting that the incident might not have been catastrophic. The Iranian state media then reported that Deputy Foreign Minister for Economic Diplomacy, Mehdi Safari, claimed that the Tabriz Friday Prayer leader had managed to speak with President Raisi on the phone from the downed helicopter. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, urged calm and assured that there would be no disruption in the country's governance. He said, and I quote, "We hope that Almighty God will bring our dear president and his companions back in full health into the arms of the nation." That's what he said in a televised address. The search effort continued with more than 60 rescue teams, including the army, the Revolutionary Guard forces and police units, scouring the foggy and mountainous terrain. The inclement weather conditions and heavy fog significantly hampered these efforts. The international community had expressed concern and offered assistance. Neighboring countries and organizations, including Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Russia, Turkey, and the European Union pledged support. The European Union had even activated its rapid response mapping service to help with the search effort. But then came the news confirming the Iranian establishment's worst fears. None of the occupants of the chopper had survived the crash. President Raisi, along with his foreign minister and 6 other officials, were confirmed dead. As news of the fatal crash came in, condolences from world leaders began to pour in. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi offered his condolences too, with a post on social media where he said, "Deeply saddened and shocked by the tragic demise of Dr. Syed Ebrahim Raisi, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. His contribution to strengthening India-Iran bilateral relationship will always be remembered. My heartfelt condolences to his family and the people of Iran. India stands with Iran in this time of sorrow." India has also declared a day of mourning tomorrow in honor of Raisi. The US State Department said President Joe Biden had been briefed on the situation and they were closely monitoring the developments. The question is, what happens next in Iran? Under the Iranian constitution, the death of a sitting president triggers specific protocols. First Vice President, 69-year-old Mohammad Mukhber, will assume the presidency in an interim capacity. Mukhber, a seasoned political figure with close ties to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has a history of significant influence within the regime. He formerly headed the Setad, a powerful state-owned foundation, and holds advanced degrees in international law and management. A council consisting of Mukhber, Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf and Judiciary Chief Ghulam Hussain Mohseni Izai is tasked with organizing a new presidential election within the next 50 days. This transition must be approved by Supreme Leader Khamenei, who has reassured the nation that state affairs would continue without disruption. Born in 1955, Mohammad Mukhber is a figure deeply entrenched in Iran's political and economic spheres. He assumed the role of first vice president in 2021 following Raisi's election as president. Mukhber's tenure at Setad, an organization initially created to manage properties confiscated after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, has been marked by controversy and sanctions. In 2010, the European Union included him in a sanctions list for his alleged involvement in nuclear and ballistic missile activities, although he was removed from the list 2 years later. In 2013, the US Treasury Department included 1,037 companies under its control on a list of sanctioned entities. According to reports, Mukhber was part of a team of Iranian officials who visited Moscow in October last year and agreed to supply surface-to-surface missiles and more drones to Russia's military. Now, the sudden death of Raisi, who was seen as a close, though uncharismatic ally of Khamenei, could significantly alter the balance of power within Iran. The death, besides Mukhber, opens the field for other contenders, including Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf, who has long harbored presidential ambitions. However, Kalibaf, a technocrat with a history of corruption allegations, might face a challenging path to securing the presidency. Let's now step back for a moment and take a look at the legacy of Ebrahim Raisi. In Iran, President Ebrahim Raisi is a name that evokes both reverence and revulsion. Revered by the hardline factions within Iran's theocratic regime and reviled by human rights organizations and women's rights activists. Raisi's journey from a low-ranking cleric's son to the zenith of Iranian power to an abrupt death in an air crash is steeped in controversy. When Raisi assumed the presidency in August 2021, many feared an escalation in Iran's repressive policies, and those fears soon came true. His administration presided over an alarming increase in executions and continued crackdowns on political dissent. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, emboldened by Raisi's hardline stance, had always been intense in suppressing any form of opposition. Born in 1960, Raisi grew up in the Islamic clerical tradition. His father, a mid-ranking cleric, ensured that young Raisi was immersed in religious education early on. After he completed only 6 years of primary school, Raisi was sent to a traditional Islamic seminary where he would begin his lifelong association with Iran's clerical establishment. The seismic shift of the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which saw the overthrow of Shah Mohammad Raza Pahlavi and the establishment of the Islamic Republic, was a key moment even for Raisi. At just 18, he joined the revolutionary forces, aligning himself with Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini's fundamentalists, who would soon dominate Iran's political and judicial systems. His early zeal and allegiance to the revolutionary cause didn't go unnoticed. By 1981, at the age of 21, Raisi had begun his judicial career as the prosecutor of Iran's Karaj and Hamadan provinces. But Raisi's most notorious chapter began in the late 1980s. In the aftermath of the Iran-Iraq war, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, issued a fatwa calling for the execution of political prisoners affiliated with the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran. In what came to be known as the 1988 massacre, death commissions were established across Iran to carry out these executions swiftly. Raisi was appointed to one such commission in Tehran. The death panels, as they were ominously dubbed, consisted of a few individuals who determined the fate of prisoners through brief interrogations. The questions posed often revolved around the prisoners' political and religious beliefs, and the answers dictated whether they lived or died. Estimates suggest that around 5,000 prisoners were executed during this period, though some sources put the number as high as 30,000. Ebrahim Raisi's role in these executions earned him the moniker the Butcher of Tehran. Eyewitnesses and survivors recount harrowing tales of Raisi supervising torture sessions and personally attending executions. Some reports describe the 1988 massacre as the second worst violation of prisoners' rights since the end of World War II, surpassed only by the 1995 Srebrenica massacre in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ebrahim Raisi's involvement in the 1988 massacre and his continued role in Iran's oppressive judicial system didn't go unnoticed internationally. The United States sanctioned him in November 2019, citing his direct involvement in human rights abuses. These sanctions were part of a broader strategy to isolate and punish key figures within Iran's regime. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, had long called for Raisi to be investigated for crimes against humanity. His presidency, which began in August 2021, only intensified these calls. On his watch, the number of executions in Iran skyrocketed. Reports indicate that 582 people were executed in 2022 alone, including 22 women and 8 juveniles. This marked a significant increase from the previous year, with executions often carried out for political dissent and other charges deemed subversive by the regime. Raisi's ascent to the presidency was seen as a consolidation of hardline control within Iran. By August 2021, the country's hardline faction controlled all the levers of power, from the supreme leader to the parliament to the IRGC. This consolidation signaled a grim future for reformists and moderates within Iran. The regime's reliance on brute force to maintain control became increasingly apparent, as evidenced by the brutal crackdown on protests in 2017 and 2019 and beyond. The regime under Raisi's influence seemed to operate under the belief that the only way to quell dissent was through sheer brutality. Raisi's judicial career too was marked by his ruthless enforcement of Iran's draconian laws. His relationship with Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and his son, Mujaba, who allegedly runs Iran's security apparatus unofficially, facilitated Raisi's rise within the judicial ranks. He allegedly sanctioned forced confessions obtained under torture and was known for his harsh stance against women who defied Iran's strict modesty laws. This was evident after the death in police custody of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old woman who protested against Iran's draconian hijab laws. Thousands of people hit the streets to protest Amini's death, and Raisi responded with brute force, suppressing all unrest. The international community's response to Raisi's presidency has been mixed. While some nations continue to engage with Iran diplomatically, others, particularly the United States and its allies, remain staunchly opposed. The Biden administration, which had initially sought to re-engage with Iran on the nuclear deal, found itself at an impasse due to Raisi's hardline policies. As Iran mourns its President Ebrahim Raisi, the world will be closely watching the aftermath and the implications on geopolitical equations. The crash comes at a very critical time for West Asia. For the past 7 months, Israel has waged a war in Gaza that was triggered by a Hamas terror attack on Israeli cities. Tehran has been repeatedly accused of backing Hezbollah and opening the Lebanon front against Tel Aviv. But a major escalation of hostilities between Israel and Iran came last month when Iran launched a volley of missiles at Israel, most of which were intercepted by its Iron Dome aerial defense system. The attack, Iran said, was in retaliation to the bombing of its embassy building in Syria by suspected Israeli warplanes. Tel Aviv responded by a limited attack on a missile defense system in Iran's Isfahan province that also hosts a uranium enrichment plant. Against this backdrop, the helicopter crash that killed the Iranian president is bound to spark a wave of speculation. So far, the reports in state media have referred to the crash as an accident, but an official word from the Iranian government is still awaited. Anything that points to foul play may escalate tensions further in the sensitive region. Iran's equations with other countries are likely to remain the same, with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei calling the shots. The government has already said it will operate without disruption. The US, a strong ally of Israel, is yet to respond to the news of Raisi's death. The past few years have seen critical developments in US-Iran ties over Tehran's nuclear push. In 2018, the then US President Donald Trump withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, an agreement on Iranian nuclear program, and restored harsh sanctions on Tehran. This prompted Iran to violate the agreement's nuclear limits. Reports recently claimed that top Biden administration officials were in indirect talks with their Iranian counterparts to avoid escalating regional attacks in the Middle East. With Raisi's death threatening to further destabilize the region, the US may look to ensure peace in the volatile area. The question we're asking on Global Lens tonight is this: what ramifications is the Iranian president's death likely to have for Iran, the Middle East, and the ongoing Israel-Hamas war? How much more instability and uncertainty is this incident likely to cause in an already volatile Middle East roiled by the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza and the increasing tensions between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, with Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis often referred to as Iranian proxies?
Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and his foreign minister were killed in a helicopter crash on Sunday. The charred wreckage of the aircraft was found early on Monday after an overnight search. Raisi's death was confirmed by Iran's vice president on X and on state television.
President
Raisi, the foreign minister, and all the passengers in the helicopter were killed in the crash. Rescue teams fought blizzards and difficult terrain through the night to reach the crash site in East Azerbaijan province in the early hours of Monday. Raisi had been at the Azerbaijani border to inaugurate a joint dam project. There has been no official word yet on the cause of the crash. State TV halted regular programming on Sunday to show prayers for Raisi being held across the country. The 63-year-old was elected president in 2021. Since taking office, Raisi had ordered a tightening of morality laws, overseen a bloody crackdown on anti-government protests, and pushed hard in nuclear talks with world powers. Iran's dual political system is split between the clerical establishment and the government, and it is the supreme leader rather than the president who has the final say on all major policies. But for years, many have seen Raisi as a strong contender to succeed his 85-year-old mentor, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has strongly endorsed Raisi's main policies.
I mean, I think a lot of people might celebrate or might be happy, but also a lot of people, I think, naturally would be very worried as to, the potential political stability and what it could have.
A contest to replace Raisi may already be in the works, according to Arash Azizi, an Iran political analyst at the Center for Middle East and Global Order.
We all expected a ferocious struggle for power to begin after Khamenei dies. It might have already begun with this incident.
The crash comes as Iran faces pressure over its nuclear program, its military ties to Russia, and its connections to Hamas, which is fighting Israel in Gaza. Countries, including China, expressed concern over Raisi, while the White House said U.S. President Joe Biden had been briefed on the situation.